Well, gents, here we are. We're gonna wait. Let's do like, I don't know, 15 or 20 seconds. People are starting to already pile into the live waiting room on YouTube. If you're out there right now, hello, greetings, good morning. It's a big day for the Philadelphia Flyers. We're recording live in the morning, Thursday, May 11th. And we are live on 3 platforms right now. The Snow the Goalie Twitter account at Snow the Goalie, Snow the Goalie Facebook, facebook.com/Snow the Goalie, and YouTube, youtube.com/@Snow the Goalie.
Why aren't you like Bettman and holding up newspapers to show us that it is actually Thursday, May 11th?
Hold on, let's see. Here we go.
I mean, like,
make sure that there's nothing offensive on my phone here. But there we go. Look.
That doesn't look good, Russ.
It's at 8:10.
It's 8:10 in the morning, Thursday.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Remember David Stern, right, in the 80s, where we really jumped off, right? I mean, the Knicks had a creased corner on one of the envelopes. It's like,
yeah.
Patrick Ewing to the Knicks. I told you got to bribe these lawyers these days, boys. It's no good. You can't just do the old paper trick no more.
By the way, I want to point this out. I know that we say this stuff all the time, but like we do have people that are coming on now. One of the benefits to following this show on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter is that I think as we go through the summer, we'll try to do a few more live things to field concerns and questions and comments from people in real time. We're also working on some stuff, and I talked about some stuff last night going into next season that I think are going to be kind of exciting. But if you're watching, this is, I guess, the benefit. You get to be here as we're shooting the breeze. And also, like, this won't make it into the podcast feed. So if there's like some kind of shenanigans that happens here in the next couple of minutes, you get to experience it live or, I guess after the fact, watching back on one of those. But we have people that are already dropping stuff in here. So guys, let's get started. We're going to do our regular intro. Everybody get hype. On a beautiful Thursday morning in the month of May 2023, the Flyers have a president. Here we go. Oh, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Snow the Goalie, the only Flyers podcast, the People's Podcast, the Players Podcast, Prognosticators Podcast, Pedialyte Podcast. And once again, we can rejoin the ranks of the presidential podcast because your team, your town, your Philadelphia Flyers have gone out. They hired a hiring agency. They've done due diligence. And they ended up with somebody who was right under their nose the whole time. Ladies and gentlemen, Keith Jones is your new president of hockey ops, and we're here to break it down. I'm going to start with the man who broke the news. So we have an insider in the middle on this video. The insider got scooped by that butte on the right. And that, of course, is Bundy. Chris Terrian. Find him on Twitter at CTerrian6. How are you doing? Are you taking Frank Saravalli's job? Are you the new LeBrun, Dreger, Friedman? Nobody had it. Bundy broke the news. How are you?
I don't want any of those titles, and Anthony knows that. Like, I don't like that at all. But guys, it's been so just so you know, first of all, and we'll get into it quickly, but this is a great hire. People are like, how can you say he's a buddy of yours? Just trust me when I tell you this is a tremendous hire on many fronts. I'll talk about Jonesy a sec, but this has gone on for a while. There's been interviews that have gone back into the middle of April. And so that's a long process that has dragged out. There was a hiring firm, it was Billy King's group, from what I was told. The reason I wasn't paying much attention to it. I know that we talked about a lot of openings, but this is the kind of job, though, if you're a person in the hockey world and you played and you know a lot of the media, the agencies, the other players involved in the game, this is a job that can be done by someone like Keith Jones. You have to go to law school. You have to be a good talent evaluator, but I think most guys that play the game are. So I'd gotten a call from another person over the weekend that had interviewed for the job themselves and had asked me if I was aware of any of the hirings or any of the process that had gone on. And the reason he asked was that he said, if I get involved, I'd love to, I want to do this job, but I'd love to have someone like you help me on that job. I don't want to get into, you probably deduced to who it may have been. I will tell you this, though, guys, and I'll leave this, turn it over to Anthony. Again, what's interesting is I talk to Jonesy once or twice a week. I had no idea that he had interviewed. So kudos to Jonesy and even his best friend up north had no idea. So when I had heard it yesterday that I'd read, well, Edzo and Jonesy were the finalists, but Spittin' Chicklets had it out. I immediately, right around the time I put the initial tweet out, I'm like, I got stuff from a lot of really good sources saying Jonesy's getting hired. It's happening. And I was sitting out back, like, this is amazing. I'm like, this is like so happy for Jonesy, thrilled for the Flyers, really. Like, I'm thinking, like, the fans, like, I want people to understand this is a great move. It's a great move. And the more times you get people like a Keith Jones around or someone like myself, people that have voiced their passion and care deeply for what this team is, and have other people recognize that, it's meaningful. It really is. And so for where Jonesy's at, trust me, man, he knows everybody in this game. He's a smart guy. He's not the morning, I know he's funny, he's witty, but he's not the morning clown that you'd see maybe on 6:10 in the mornings. And it's just, I'm really, really happy. But that's how the whole thing went down. And I can tell you guys, and Anthony, I never heard a damn word from Jonesy. And I deduced it at the end from hearing from higher up people, maybe agents. I don't want to give away my call, that this had happened. I think, Anthony, you could confirm this too. This is way too like a big, small city where things fly around in the sports industry in Philly. Nobody can keep anything quiet. But for me, where I'm at, we'll talk more about it. I'm pumped for Jonesy. I think it's amazing. I couldn't be happier for him, but I'm really, really, I'm telling you guys, and hear me when I say it, I'm happy for the fans and for the organization. They got this right. And that's what I'm thrilled about.
Yeah, so you say Bundy, he's not the morning clown. So I mean, you mean to tell me he's not going to start every press conference by making a fart noise into the microphone?
You're right, and you know what you just said. He's going to come out like, yeah, I know, but it's funny, and I spoke to Briere like 3 weeks ago, and we talked about that like that little bit of how that works when guys want to stay in the game when they're done.
Yeah.
The guys in the locker room that were the character guys and the voices go to the media.
Yeah.
And the guys that are like, well, I want to hang around, but I want to learn more, they go to management where they don't have the bigger voices. It's not a split. It's not like the guys that have the big voice couldn't go to management.
Sure.
It's just kind of the way when you're in your early 30s and you're retiring that the split happens. Right. And that's what it is. I mean, Jonesy's story is amazing. This is a guy who used to go hang out with Angelo for free. He played, 70 games in this town? So, and the last thing I don't want to hear anymore is, oh, we hired someone from the inside. We went outside last time for 4 or 5 years. How'd that work out?
Yeah.
Time is yours. Go.
Yeah. No, it's good. And I'll tell you that it's interesting because, Bundy, up until you actually, putting your tweet out yesterday, I was under the impression that they were going to hire Eddie Olczyk. And I knew that Jonesy had interviewed, a little over a week ago. I knew that he had interviewed, but I never was under the impression that he was a top candidate. I thought it was just a situation where it's like, there's guys who they're going to have, who are interested, who they respect, and they're going to bring in and grant them the interview and then move on. And I kind of thought that, that was where it was going. And, as of last Friday, I was told Eddie O's in the lead. Like, this is the guy that they want to hire. And I was like, okay, well, that's an interesting choice, but it's okay. It is what it is. And then, it starts to get to, yesterday, I guess it was yesterday or even the night before when Jonesy's name first started to surface again, whether it was Elliott, I think that was the first one to put it out. And then Frank had Frank Saravalli put out a thing where he said the finalists, it's down between Eddie O and Jonesy, and was like, man, this is bigger than I thought. And then I started to hear that maybe it's not Eddie O. And then, of course, you put it out, and I was like, wow, that went quick. Like, and, the Flyers really, they wanted to try and control the narrative on this a little bit. And I think that they did, a good job in that regard. I mean, we knew that he was interested. We knew that his name was in the mix, but we never got the impression that this was the direction that they were going to go in until yesterday. And, I don't know if it was a last minute switch, if they, but I think that they got the guy that they ultimately wanted to get. And for this reason, this is why I think that they got who they wanted to get. They're going to do something a little bit different here. And one of the questions that I keep getting on Twitter from fans who are sending me DMs and asking this, they said, well, what exactly then is the role of the director of hockey operations? And in most instances, well, I shouldn't say most, in all instances, really prior to this, it's to have been the guy, right? To be the person running hockey, running the kind of over the general manager, like really the person in charge. And the GM has, in these situations, has kind of been like the secondary guy. This is going to be different. This is an all in on Danny Briere as a general manager. This is an all in on a belief that he can be the next, Yzerman, Sakic, those kinds of guys who played the game and had success as a general manager, moving into that role. And Jonesy being in this role is not that he's not going to be involved. He's certainly going to be involved. He's certainly going to be, intimately involved, but that his role is a little bit different. And it's more of being a communicator, being someone who has a leadership ability within a group of people to kind of run the group and make sure that people are doing their job and their job only, and not, putting too many fingers in too many pies, right? So that's kind of what Jonesy's responsibility is going to be more than anything else. He's certainly going to be a leader of the front office, but not necessarily be the person who is negotiating the contracts or who is, making the trades. He's going to be obviously he's going to sit in on all this stuff, and he's going to have a voice in all this. But it's more of a let Danny be Danny and do his job, and you kind of oversee everything and make sure it's being done properly, because hockey ops for the past 10 years, 9-10 years has not been very well run as far as leadership is concerned. So I think that's where Jonesy's going to fit. And look, this is going to be a brand new concept in this sport, and it's something that you're going to hear a lot of people might push back against this. You're going to hear a lot of old school hockey people say that this is ridiculous, this is stupid, why would they do this? Look, this could be something that is unprecedented, and it could be successful. And if it is, will be something that other organizations will then try to copy. If it fails, it's going to fail hard. But at the same time, you wanted something different. Fans wanted something different, and they're going to sit there and say it's not different because it's somebody from within the organization.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But that's not true. That's not what it is. It's different because of how they're setting it up, right? And so ultimately, whether we think it's going to work or we don't think it's going to work is irrelevant. It is different and unique. And that's what you wanted. It's certainly outside the box. If people don't think it is, they don't think it is, but it is outside the box. And we will see if it works. If it does, then everybody else will try and copy this formula.
The thing that's interesting about it, I'm of two minds. When it initially came out that it was going to be Eddie Olczyk or Keith Jones, the Olczyk thing was interesting, but all I kept coming back to was, we talked about the importance of understanding the market. And that goes back to like a month ago when we started having this conversation about, like, why is Billy King involved, right? What would Billy King and his agency, know about Philadelphia? And like, you obviously know that the Billy King connection is important because he served in a comparable role for the Philadelphia 76ers. And like, yeah, he certainly had his flaws in terms of building a team, but he has institutional knowledge of what it is to run an organization at this level in the city of Philadelphia. And Keith Jones is an interesting hire from the standpoint that, like, if you want to complain that it's somebody who was an in-house candidate, keep in mind that they didn't just interview the Good Old Boys network as part of this process. Like, go back a month and a half. They interviewed Emily Castonguay, right? And at the time we said, well, she's had very limited experience. And like, what exactly are they?
Just to clarify one thing on that, Russ, they technically didn't interview her. I mean, they talked to her, but it was not allowed because they did not have permission to talk. So there was no real official interview. But anyway, they may or may not have had a conversation.
So, which is totally normal and within the rules. So, it's interesting because at that time we said, all right, well then they're clearly not looking for somebody who has decades of experience in a president of hockey ops role or as a GM or something comparable. And then you fast forward, and I think it's actually kind of reductive on the part of some fans to say Keith Jones is like this morning show clown, if that's how you want to go about it. When you're an announcer and you're doing the kind of work that he was doing, not only locally, but also nationally as part of, the NBC sports coverage the last few years, as well as on the Turner networks this year, you have to stay up on what the trends are in the game. You have to stay up on the teams and the players in this league. It might not be the same thing as advanced scouting, but there's a lot of work that goes into that. So it's not like you're pulling some schlub out of a back office that hasn't been paying attention to the game. At the same time, it's, admittedly, it's not the same thing to put somebody in this role, who's had a decade of experience doing something similar compared to like what Jonesy's doing. Now, if the goal here has been, we want a president of hockey ops who has institutional knowledge of the city, who also understands what it's like to play here, who also understands this market and what's going to resonate with fans, and has the ability now to almost serve a PR role in a sense, he's a perfect hire. Yeah. Somebody actually, Bundy, and I don't want to, let's not offend you here, but like somebody compared this yesterday. They said like Jonesy is a more polished Bundy, because you go raw, your criticisms of the team the last year and a half or so have been raw. Jonesy has also been critical of this team. Like I think it was Brandon Summerman started putting out clips yesterday of like times that over the past year and a half, Jonesy has gone on even NBC Sports Philadelphia and has been critical of the team, of their direction, of the way that guys apparently seem to quit. So that was 2021. I look at it and I say, if this is what the team wanted, I think they got the perfect person. But there is going to be a lot of criticism levied at them if they don't get this right. And that gets me to a bigger concern that I have. And I'll throw this to you guys and, feel free. This sure as shit feels like John Tortorella remains the most powerful person in the organization because Keith Jones isn't a yes man, right? But he's also not going to, I don't think, get into as much of a battle as some other people who had reportedly interviewed for this job. And so I just question, have we put a little bit too much onus on John Tortorella's role? You have a brand new GM, a brand new president of hockey ops, neither of whom have served in that role previously. This team is surely going to look like the kind of team John Tortorella wants to coach. It's the only real concern I have here is that it almost feels like an inverted power structure.
Well, Bundy, I'll let you take this too, but I just want to say the one thing in that, and I think that there's going to be a lot of questions about that, and I think it's fair for Russ to bring it up. I think this is all part of what I was saying with this is a new concept, a new idea, and it's not to say that Tortorella is in charge, because I don't think he is. I think that Briere is still going to be the guy who's making all of these decisions. But what it does give John is it gives him a larger voice in that room than most coaches would have or have had in the past. Okay, if that makes any sense. So what I think it allows the Flyers to do is, again, with this is a new concept, a new idea, is that the coach can now have a little bit more input into the kinds of players that he's going to get to coach. Again, this is not done. So, if you want to be a traditionalist, then yeah, you're gonna hate hate this idea. You're gonna say this is not how we run hockey. How dare they try something so stupid? No one's ever done this before. Or you can look at it from a little bit more of a progressive viewpoint, saying, hey, no one's ever done this before. Maybe this will work. Maybe this is kind of a cool idea that you now have. And we've heard Dan Hilford use the words, this is a triumvirate, right? That they want to kind of put together. And so it's going to be Briere, Jonesy, and Torts. That's the triumvirate, and they're going to buy into that and say that it's, that's what they believe is going to work, and they're going to go forward with that. Can it work? Sure. Can it fail? Sure. But at the same time, I think that that's what you're going to hear. And I think another thing that you're going to hear a lot of is that this is something that I think this is going to be, I think you're going to hear this as kind of like their keywords, right? You're going to hear a lot of that. This is a new NHL, and that this is a new approach in a new NHL, right? No longer are we operating under the guise of the old league and the way things used to be done. We're now, look, we don't want to be followers. We want to be leaders. We want to be trailblazers into the new world of the NHL. And that, so doing so, we're going to do things a little bit differently. So I think you're going to hear them say a lot of that. I think that's going to be a lot of their, hot button kind of stuff. And I guess the question then that we'll have to find out the answer to is, will that be, a good idea and a good approach, and will it work? We don't know. And I'm sure that it's easier to fall on the side of it won't work because we've never seen it before. And how dare somebody try something different like that? But I think it's only fair to give them the opportunity to show that it can work. And I think that's what that's where we're going to have to go. And we're going to let's see it first. And a year from now, 2 years from now, we look back at it and say, we're going to say it's either brilliant, or we're going to sit there and go, oh man, that was a bad idea. But I think at the same time, you got to give them the opportunity to show that it can work. Right, Bundy?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I told you guys a couple weeks ago, I went in and met with Danny. We spent 90 minutes together talking in his office about stuff because, and again, I'm a person that, like I have fortitude. Like I like to go in, live an honest, good life. And I told Danny, I said, I want to come in here and tell you that, I've been critical of this team. And and like I told everybody on the show, but I want to know what you're thinking, because I want to have an understanding. Because if I continue doing Snow the goalie and working with Anthony and Russ, I need to be able to have talking points and to get a feel for where you at. After talking to Danny, I had a good sentiment, a very good feeling, with him. Guys, I've been with Jonesy for a long time. Like he got here, 99, 98, 99. And, he's a great teammate. But the thing is that I've seen, forget the teammate. It's all the old buddy. Everybody in the game is friends with somebody that played against them. So everyone's going to call everyone their great buddy or their old buddy or whatever, because that's just what it is. Jonesy is a very sharp guy. And I don't know so much if the role ends up being more of a baby kissing type of thing, or if it is a, something where he actually gets right in there. But to me, when someone asked, what do you see the role of president? And honestly, God, I said three things: winning, winning, and more winning. That job for me, for what he's doing, as I see it, or if I was doing it, it would be to oversee generally what's going on in the front office, the top of the food chain, how Danny's doing, but let him have the reins to that, which he will. Torts is a totally different coach. Usually when you have someone like this, because of the thing, but what I'm saying, because of the way the optics look, where Torts has been that fiery guy for 20 some years, and it's his show or no show or all that kind of stuff. I think he'd have to be careful with that. Jonesy's no slouch. I've watched him, and it's not going to be like Torts is going to come in and go up and off in his office and tell Jonesy what he thinks. But that job, to me, is not so much about micromanaging, but about figuring out how you can give Danny and Torts the best resources to try to move the needle front. Just be an overseer. But I think a lot of it was like, I love the optics because there's some people that like, I don't understand the way people like it's kind of, when you look at it, it's a bit of a polarizing move, which I'm surprised at. But maybe because I know who Jonesy is and travel with him. And we've had long discussions about hockey in serious tones and undertones, the league, managers. And when you look at some of the other guys that have been around hockey, yeah, you've had Joe Sakic. When you look at Joe Sakic, the beginning of his tenure, it was a joke. Like he did nothing for 3 years, nothing. And people are like, well, this is what happens but now he's ended up winning a cup. Same thing with other guys that have taken over teams. If you're around a player in the league and you had a voice and you have a personality, they're the ones that carry the water into the future in this league anyway. So to me, listen, John Davidson did it. No one ever made a stink about that, right? Like he went into the president's booth from the broadcast booth with the Rangers and then in Columbus as well. These are moves that guys that have a voice in the say, that were players and then became media guys that have forged relationships over the year. I can tell you this. Jonesy knows the whole league. I know the whole league. I know every manager, scouts, players, media relations. That's what happens when you travel all these years and you make a lot of acquaintances and you cross a lot of T's and dot a lot of I's just through connections and relationships. And I think that right now is the biggest thing for this team, is to have somebody, I think, that's a voice in the city. He's going to need support, but I think for what people are thinking on the outside, like, guys, this is a great move, and I'm super optimistic. And I'm not putting on if I don't give a shit if they hired a guy in here that I played with, and I thought he was a dummy, I would just say they hired a dummy. And even if he was my friend, I will never ever. There's like, I don't gaslight. I don't know how to do it. So whatever you hear from me is straight fucking honesty to a T, and you'll always
There
get
it is.
And I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to also say I'm fucking pumped up. It's Jonesy. That's what else I'm going to say. And you know what?
So you mean you would criticize if they hired like Carl Dykhouse, right? As the
If I didn't know what he did and they hired like some mystery guy coming in, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like, holy Jesus. I'm not going to criticize
what if
anybody.
They had hired, what if they had hired?
Diker might know how to run a team or to oversee something. But you know
what
what?
would you have said if they had Bundy? What would you have said if they had hired Hitch? Got him.
Danny might not have got the big office. If you know what I mean.
So, really quick here, a big thank you, and this is more, I guess, for the people who are going to be listening to this in the podcast feed. We're doing this live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So I want to go to some of the questions, comments, and concerns that people have brought up here. We've touched on some of them, but you know what? These people joined us early in the morning. In fact, I want to shout out Allison L on YouTube. When we went live, she said it's 5 a.m. here. I'm glad to get the kids up and ready for school. So you know what, Allison, here's to you. Allison gets like fan of the day. That's commitment. That's West Coast commitment right there.
Yeah, that is.
I will say though, feeble-minded brother showed up before we even started recording. So that means that feeble-minded brother is not only a subscriber to the YouTube channel, but also has the little notification set, because we also didn't put this out as a, we're going to go live at 8:15 or anything. So Feeble, here's to you. Paul Napierkowski, who I don't remember checking in before, asked what we thought about the move of bringing up Jones, or of hiring Jonesy, which we did. Trevor Harris, who always likes to check in over on Facebook with a nice good morning, and also says that we are a better morning show than what they have in Miami. Brendan O'Neill says Bundy rocks. There you go. Well, hashtag positive. Maybe we need to do this in the morning. Maybe we just need to start doing the show in the morning. Who the hell knew that we could be so positive? Here's a good question. Now, this has come up before. Rob Greeley says on YouTube, so does Bundy step in to join JJ as the new color commentator in Jonesy's absence? It would be awesome. The reason I say this has come up before is because when Coatsy left, a lot of people started clamoring for Bundy to take the job on radio. And now there's a job open on TV. So I don't know what this means. But I have a bad feeling Bundy's going to leave us. Okay. I don't want it to happen, but like when somebody's very talented, I worry. Bundy's talented. We love Bundy. Bundy, I'm going to have to try to make you an offer you can't refuse not to leave. But
whatever it is, Russ, it's better than it is this year.
That's right. So I
can't be worse, pal.
There you go. I don't know. Would there be interest on your part?
You know what, guys?
Going back to TV.
Broadcast is. I mean, there's a lot of things have changed in my life in 3 or 4 years. Since I left there, but I don't know. I
not
really
for that
don't
network.
Know.
Not for that network.
I just don't. I don't see that in the cards. Just so you know, like when I talked to Danny and when I went into, there was a piqued interest on my part to see if there was any way I could help. I played here, guys, 12 years. I broadcasted another 14. I had like kind of an unceremonious end at the end. And you know what? Things have changed a little bit. We'll get into that down the road. But for me with the team. But when I went into Danny, from the bottom of my heart, I said, if you ever need anything from me, I will be here for you. And I will tell Keith Jones the exact same thing. I'll be honest with you. I was pretty flattered when I got that call from another person that had interviewed for the Prez job. And I was pretty humbled by that. And, I think when you carry an honest message and listen, there's a lot of guys around the league that know Jonesy's capability or people's that we talk hockey. There's broadcasters I know that have more evaluation of talent than there are managers in the business. I know. I'm telling you, it's just weird how the split happens. But I will tell you this, Russ, I don't know what my future holds, but I'll tell you one thing, and I've said this since I've come on, and fans know it. I love this team. I love the fans, the city. You guys have given me a life here, and I don't want to diatribe on it, but it means a lot to me. And if it meant doing something to help Danny and Jonesy, I'll be there for them.
Well, Bundy, one thing I want to kind of touch on real quick here, and I don't think fans recognize this and realize this, and it's one of the reasons why being a broadcaster, you might have a little bit more. You say that there are broadcasters out there who know more about hockey than actual managers. You guys have a separate, this little pull back the curtain thing, but you guys have a separate meeting on a daily basis with the coaches, right, prior to your game to try and help enhance the broadcast. Those conversations are often far more frank and far more real than the BS that goes on between the media covering the team and the coach in those pregame sessions, right? I mean, like we would meet with the coach first, and it would be all typical coach answers, and then we'd leave, and you guys would have the coach, and you'd get a hell of a lot more better stuff, and know for real what the coach is thinking, what the team is thinking, what players are playing well, who's not playing well, and they're just flat out blunt and honest with you, and so therefore you guys know a little bit more than anybody, even more than we do.
It's interesting, and you have to really build that relationship with a coach. So from a media standpoint, I'm always feeling like, for me, I would take those messages, and you never repeat the messages how they come out, because that would be awful for the player. Some guys have no filter and they'll say it, but I always think about the players' parents at home watching, and so give them a chance. Like, that's the way I would think. But there's guys I've been in them before where I've had a coach go look and be like, "There's 6 broadcasters, right?" And I don't like it. And he's like, you tell me one meaningful game that guy has played in his entire life. Like, a coach will say it about a player on his team. And you're like, well, we're seeing the same thing. It's an eye check thing, but now the coach has confirmed it. And usually when a coach says something like that, so what happens is then you go to a meal room, and that happens on other teams. Like, you're eating before the game, and next thing you know, you got the Toronto broadcaster saying that the coach undressed this guy in a pregame, like telling the media he can't stand him. That's why the media, and I said that to Danny. When I met him, I said, if there is something around, I don't know, because I'm doing meaningful stuff now, but we hear broadcasters that travel hear more than anybody else in the business. Anybody. And we have usually more privy knowledge to who's on the block, who may be getting moved, if there's a management issue going on, if the coach is not getting the job done, we hear it usually before a lot of other people. So that is true. And there's, and before the games, it's usually the head coach. Torts doesn't usually do it. He sends an assistant. But I'll tell you what, from broadcasting, TV, and radio, there's always been the head coach who spends 10 or 15 minutes to give us a little bit of insight on the game of the team, so then we can present it to the fans that night.
And I'll tell you my experience. The only reason I even knew about this, Russ, is when during the lockout, Bundy didn't want to go up to Glens Falls when the Phantoms were up in Glens Falls. Bundy had no interest in doing those games. I think you did a couple of them, right? Yeah, but you didn't want to do them all. So every weekend, in place of you, they sent me with Saunders. And so I would go into those meetings with Terry Murray, and the regular AHL writers would meet with him first, and then we'd go in, and it was a whole different experience. And my eyes were like, holy hell, what am I missing? Like this, we're asking questions and getting dumbass answers, and then all of a sudden we go into this meeting and he tells you everything about every player that he wants to bitch about. It's unbelievable.
I got a really funny story. All right. And I think people might remember this. Anthony, you did. When I used to when I did NBC Sports at the between the between ice there, the benches.
Yeah.
I would, after the games on the road, I would have to go around and hold the mic in the scrums, right?
Yeah.
Just because I had to get the material for NBC Sports. And I'm like, that's cool. So, and because I knew everything that was going on from the coach, and I knew everything behind closed doors, you're tied to the coaches. When I did TV, I would go in the room with Berube or guys, just sit and hang out with them and listen.
Yeah.
Because I was outside the hallway. They knew I wasn't going to go report it. I was a friend of theirs.
Right.
But we would, there's all kinds of like funny stuff. So I was saying, I lost my train of thought. We were going in between the benches, and I really don't even remember what the hell I was going to say. But you know what?
You were going to tell a funny story.
Get me up early in the morning.
Well, here, while you try to get that.
Oh no! So I'd hold the mic. I'd hold the mic.
Here it is.
Panache would be in there, right? And he'd be like, he'd ask like some question to the guy after a game, and he'd be like below me, and I'd be like I'm thinking to myself, because I'd get Panache going, he'd start laughing, and then I'd pat him on the head, and I'm like, come and talk to me after, son. I'll let you know what's going on.
Oh man.
So
it was good stuff.
Anyway, that's where we were, boys. See what happens when you get me up in these mongrel hours?
Yeah. Well, here's one of the good things. So, you talk about like what it's like at this local level to have that kind of open dialogue. And I guess this is like, here's another way that we can say like the Jonesy hire could be a good one. If you're out there and you're skeptical of the hire, you take the national profile that he has. Now you think about, it's not just one team who he's got insight on how coaches feel about their players, about how front offices feel about their players. Like the Flyers could actually have a potential going into this offseason where now they're able to leverage some of that knowledge that Jonesy had, on his own through his interactions, as well as those of the people he worked with at Turner. And like, maybe you can now, in conversations with Danny Briere and with John Tortorella, you can identify some of these players who might be on the outs with their team, and you might be able to leverage, a decent deal. And I guess all of this is to say, like, maybe there's a way to turn this thing around a little bit faster than we thought, right? You think about like change of scenery guys. Perhaps there are a few of those guys out there. He now has knowledge of it. He can bring that to the table. Doesn't mean that it's going to turn everything around right away. It doesn't mean that you're going to be a cup contender next year, but like it certainly can benefit you. I want to get back to some of the questions, comments, concerns really quick here. This is good. C-Mac, who was pissed off that we didn't do a new episode last week, went into the Twitter community to complain about it. Says, STG, hit the like button. More hits, the better in the feed. Future shows are going to be in the new YouTube algorithm. Thanks, C-Mac. I appreciate that. By the way, we go back to, where's it at? Give me a second. Somebody said that there was an article that we don't want to read. I guess that was dismissive of the hire. We'll find that. Maybe we'll break that down at some point. Brendan O'Neill asks, will the Flyers even announce this, or will they just wait for the draft to see him at the table? I think
they're going to announce it today is what I think is going to happen.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure today is going to be the day.
Okay. There was Mick Bodine or Bodine mentions, this goes back to the Tortorella thing about like if Torts is the most powerful guy in the organization, it could be a bad thing because he would have taken Bedard and put him on the fourth line for not blocking enough shots. So I don't know. There are people who I think kind of agreed with that in the comments. But this is I think this is a pretty fair, rational, balanced take from Dramato. It doesn't matter who the Flyers hired. This fan base would complain either way. Jonesy is a lot better than some of the names I heard linked to the position. Glass half full for now. I think that's actually pretty fair. The one thing, and you guys can talk to this better because you know Jonesy obviously better than I do. There has not been a single person that I have seen on any form of social media that has had a negative thing to say about Keith Jones, the human being, or about Keith Jones's hockey knowledge. It's been more of a criticism of he played here, he was affiliated because he did games on TV, but it's not actually about his credentials in terms of like what he's able to do, the relationships he has. Like, it's none of that. It just kind of feels like yelling at a cloud to yell at a cloud. But like, I don't necessarily know if that's fair.
I honestly think it's a different hire than anyone could have ever expected. So you could sit here and say that he was with the organization for 20 years. You could sit here and say, oh, it's just, Comcast being Comcast, hiring another former Flyer. Look, you could say all those things. And on a surface from a 10,000 foot view, you'd be accurate. But if you want to look at it with a little bit of nuance, like this is a different hire than anyone would have ever imagined. It's completely different. And in that regard, you have to sit there and say they're giving you what you're asking for. You're asking for them to do something different than what they've done in the past.
Yep.
This is different. This is, no matter, even though it's a recognizable name, it's different, and it's going to be different how it's done. We don't know if it'll be successful. We hope it's successful. Everyone hopes it's successful for the sake of the fact that we're sick and tired of watching bad hockey, right? Yeah. So we all want it to be successful, you know, but at the same time, this is not the way it's been done. This is new. This is unique. This is different. I don't know how anybody can complain about that from that perspective. It is not what you thought they were going to do. It's not what anybody thought they were going to do, and it's going to be something that we've never seen with the Philadelphia Flyers before.
By the way, BJ Barreto went on a tear here, and these are good. So he says that I like that Jones knows the team and city so well. I like Jones knows people in the sport. Is it transferable to running a team? I love ice cream. I know every flavor. Can I run Haagen-Dazs? And he says, I want to give him a chance. I like it. I like Jones a lot. Counterpoint, because somebody was complaining about it in the comments. Gates and Jobs, so Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, weren't business people. They were subject matter experts who built something in their garage. It's easier to learn business than nuances of hockey.
He's asking.
Yeah, is it easier to learn business than the nuances of hockey? And then goes on to say, Dave Scott knew business, but didn't know the product. So now I'm good with somebody who knows the product well, especially the product in the city. And here's the, I guess, the level of this, and you guys can fight over this one, like, you know, who wants to take it. But we talked about the last year and a half, 2 years, hockey ops and business ops were not getting along. They were not a cohesive unit. And Chuck Fletcher, but especially in the last year, we saw business ops make significant strides. But Bundy spent the better part of the last, 10 months or so, kind of giving the flowers to the Val Camillos of the world and to the business side for reconnecting with the fan base, for doing a much better job on game day. And now Keith Jones, very approachable, very likable. One has to assume that we're now going to finally see a unification, a bridge being built between the two sides. All that stuff that Anthony had talked about, pulling the curtain back the last few months of the Chuck Fletcher tenure, where like people were actively rooting against each other, right? People in this, like the craziest shit that's happened. All right. And there's been a lot of crazy shit that's happened with this team. The fact that there were people who actively rooted for the failure of other people within the organization, within the front office, is insanity. And it seems like maybe this is trending in the right direction to be an actual functional organization on both sides.
Bundy, I mean, I think Russ is right with that.
Yeah, I first of all, for BJ's point, it's an interesting one. But guys, yes, this is, to me, is also it's a bridge building mission in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. There's been no cohesion between the two, the business. So there is. So what there is a business side and then the hockey side. And if they're not working together, you got a bad thing going on. So in a lot of ways, Jonesy's a very nice guy too, but he don't. I say that as on the surface when you meet him. So he'll want to make sure the relationship's smooth with the business side. But you know, again, guys, this is the. I'll talk about the ice cream with the Haagen-Dazs. Well, I like Haagen-Dazs, but you're right. I don't know how to make it or how to produce it. But so I'm a fan, like people are fans of the National Hockey League. I'm a fan of Ben & Jerry's or Haagen-Dazs or whatever little pints of ice cream that I devour. I don't know how to make that, and I don't know the operating procedures of that. But I'm telling you guys right now, a person like Jonesy or someone that has an understanding of the knowledge of the league and the players involved and the people, it's not a hard transition. Like if someone said to me, okay, I'm going to give you, if someone said to me, Bundy, we have no choice, you got to go do this job, I would feel pretty confident in what in the moves I would make to see it. So I'm very confident in Jonesy being able to do it. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's putting pieces in place and giving Danny the best opportunity he can to get the best players in here and kind of be a quasi GM to keep an eye on stuff, but in no way to deter that. But this is something now. This needs a whole cleaning in the eyes of everybody. The Philadelphia Flyers and the city and everybody involved needs a big group hug. And I think this is the beginning of the group hug in a lot of ways. That's why I'm happy about it, because I do. Like, people are like, well, why? No, it's because I know that what Jonesy knows. And I know the people and the players in the industry he knows. And I know the respect that people give him. That's why this move's good. And I'll be honest with you. If somebody said Keith Jones has to go in and help make hockey decisions, I'd be good with that too, with player evaluation.
Well, and that's a good transition into this. Ian Sparks asks on Facebook, do you think Jonesy will push to make a big move in this year's draft, like trade up with assets gained from trading veterans to show they're serious about the rebuild, or do they just need more shots at getting a potential hit?
I mean, look, do I think that anybody would like to move up from 7 to somewhere in the top 4? Of course. The goal, the question is who in the top 4 would be willing to trade down? I don't know. I don't think anybody. You really have to give up a lot to turn someone away from. Yeah, to turn somebody
I asked
away
him that,
from
and he
one
said,
of these things.
unless you get yourself in one of those things, you're probably not. Like I said, is there? But you're right, though, Russ. It's a great question. If I'm Jonesy, I'm absolutely blasting something for this town. I'm doing something explosive for you guys this summer. Like, I need to put some excitement back in this. You need to get the Flyers relevant again, and how they're going to do that is again. I like the pieces in place. They got a lot of work to do still. Like, they got a lot of work to do.
Austin Matthews is a free agent.
That does not go away. But in terms of what they've done, this is a great move, guys. I'm telling you, I'm pumped. And I wouldn't tell. I don't gaslight. I don't lie. If I didn't like it, I'd tell you, and I do. All right. So from Jonesy and Danny, go for it, boys. Go get them.
J Toxic 49 came on here. J Toxic 49 actually spoke on the Twitter space that we did the other night. Ask what Jonesy's day-to-day is expected to be, and also notes that's know the goalie rules. Appreciate that. That's very nice. Anthony DeGrazio, what's up, you beauties? Bundy, with Jonesy getting the gig, are we going to see you back working with the franchise again? I guess maybe TBD? TBD. Let's say TBD. I don't put Bundy in a spot. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Who's to say? I think Bundy's certainly been more positive about the team of late, so that's nice. I mean, he cares about – this is the thing. Bundy's always cared about the team. He caught some shit at one point because somebody thought he was bitter about the end at NBC Sports Philadelphia, which, again, we're going to detail at some point. But NBC Sports Philadelphia is not the Philadelphia Flyers. And, Bundy, you've mentioned this before. You got clarity on what happened.
It wasn't the Flyers. It wasn't. Yeah. Guys, this is a long, great story and all this that nobody knows. And I can't wait to share. I can't do it today. We don't have time, but I'm pumped. I'm really excited about this. But yeah, there's a great story behind it. And yeah, that's why I said if someone asked me what NBC Sports Philadelphia, if the right person were hiring, I'd feel confident, but that's not the case. So
Thomas Cimino has I think a fair point here, and we've kind of touched on this before, and we'll get into this at some point down the road. The only problem is that we don't know what the job requires, this president of hockey ops role. Like, it hasn't been clearly defined. If it's more of a PR marketing job, maybe it's okay. In Thomas's opinion, if it's financial and business management, then there might be a problem. Thing is, business side is a different operation, right? Like, business ops is different. So,
yeah. I mean, look, is there going to be a PR element to it? There is, right? But at the same time, they need leadership. I said this at the beginning.
Yeah.
The hockey ops department hasn't had good leadership in a long time. At least a decade, right? And I think that's what this is about, is bringing someone in who can be a leader of others and who will bring in people who will work toward getting the team going in the right direction and potentially winning a championship down the road. That's what they need. And they believe in Keith Jones as that kind of person who has the ability to bring in people and to get people who want to be, behind that mission and go in that right direction. And I think I think really when you start to see the passion that people have in these new positions, and it starts with Dan Hilferty, who is passionate about success. It starts with Danny Briere, who is a fierce competitor. If you guys all know, like, as nice a guy as he is, one of the fiercest competitors who's ever played the game. And if that has not left him, like when you're a competitive person, even though you're not playing the game anymore, that fire still burns. And I think that still burns for Danny. And then you got a guy like Jonesy and Torts, even. I mean, if you can go down to the coach who's got that same kind of desire to be the best and win at all costs, I think you're looking at a group of people who are all heading in the right direction, who want to go in the right direction and aren't going to get stuck doing some of the same old BS that had been going on for so long.
One could argue that this is perhaps a new era of orange. And in case you haven't seen it on Twitter, the Philadelphia Flyers have put out a statement. The Philadelphia Flyers organization was built on relentless ambition and loyalty to this city. When you're playing for Philadelphia, you're playing to win and you're giving it your all. That's the bottom line, because when you represent this city, nothing less is acceptable. That extends beyond the ice too. It's about character, sacrifice, integrity, and most importantly, resilience in every single thing we do. When you don the orange and black, you're held to a specific set of standards and you're expected to show up and work your ass off.
How about that in a release?
Every single day. It's about doing things the right way. No excuses, no shortcuts. This is a new era of hockey, and we're building a new foundation for the future.
Wow.
New ways to work, new ways to train, and new ways to win. We have new voices, new perspectives, and new plans. But this is still Flyers hockey, so the goal remains the same. Win. Welcome to a new era of orange. Hell yeah! I'll run through a wall. I feel like running through a wall. I might even fight Bundy. Let's go.
You might take me down pretty quick right now, Russ.
Hey, Bundy, get Russ on Ice Wars. There you go.
Ice Wars. Ice Wars is coming back, boys, July 15th. And we got another podcast there. I'll talk about more, but we're coming back July 15th. Yes, the insanity ensues.
There you go. There you go.
Hey, by the way, Zach O has Bundy sworn all this episode.
Oh, yeah.
He sure did.
Yes,
he sure did. Don't worry. Yeah. Guys, I mean, there are more comments and everything that are coming in here and questions and everything. And I love it. And I know that we also have to get going, and has something going on this morning that's also very important for him to get to. Anthony DeGrazio points out, this is not the Rangers letter, but I like the message from the franchise. Love that tone. You know, listen, putting ass in a press release or in a statement, it might seem like nothing, but it feels like something. You know, I think it's more of a something than a nothing. So it's interesting, you know. And Jay Toxic says, you guys are right. This is definitely a new wrinkle. For the first time in a long time, we have something to be a tad excited about. I would not be surprised if they try to move up in the draft to make a significant impact. I just don't know what that looks like. The one thing I think, you know, everybody's going to have their eye on is whether or not Mishkov falls. And if he does, that could be an impact. And if not, and you know, you talked about a while ago, Fletcher was trying to negotiate a summertime deal of sending Hayes to Columbus. So, you know, is there a way?
By the way, they just put the release out that it's official. So
about Keith Jones,
yeah, Flyers
Jonesy
literally just arrived at 9:02.
Oh, there it is.
Yep.
How about that? They did.
And Briere, the interim tag removed.
Yep. So Danny B, no longer interim, which we all expected. Keith Jones, officially president of Hockey Ops. It is an interesting time. I have to say, guys, and I know we heard how excited Bundy is about Jonesy getting the job.
Mm-hmm.
This, I think, is the most excited I have been about this team in, I don't know, we might be getting close to like a decade. It for once feels like they have all the elements, maybe not the on-ice product yet, but they have all of the elements lined up, top down, to get this thing right. And I have not felt like that for quite some time. So now we just have to see where this goes. Draft will be coming up, top 7 pick. Perhaps they try to move up. Who's to say? They have a lot of money to clear off the books. Some will be coming off. Can they make a few moves? Can Danny get creative? Can you load up cap space for next summer when there are some actual meaningful free agents? And I know I joked about Austin Matthews, and I don't think he would come here, but who knows? Who's to say? You can at least sell your fan base on the idea of getting excited about a potential free agent splash. So Pretty exciting stuff, guys. Anything else before we head out?
Nope. There's gonna be a lot of.
Yeah, I do. I have something, guys.
Yeah, no, I'll have a story later today that kind of breaking this down. But go ahead, Bundy.
This is just off the cuff, but the Tarian Foundation tomorrow, 5:30 till 8 at the Heart of Catering in Philadelphia. Myself, my friend Kevin Heyer will be doing our joint fundraisers. My inaugural one, more of a soft launch. His is a full launch, but it's at the Heart of Catering in Center City, Philadelphia. People are welcome. Tickets are there. We have amazing auction items, and all the proceeds go to help people in recovery, struggling, getting themselves back on their feet. Thank you.
Awesome
stuff. Awesome stuff, Bundy. Hey, a big thank you to everybody who checked out the live stream. Again, this was available if you are a subscriber on YouTube, youtube.com/@snowthegoalie. It's also on facebook.com/snowthegoalie, Twitter @snowthegoalie. We're also on Instagram @snowthegoalie. And for those of you who just learned about this in the last week, also on TikTok now @snowthegoalie, where we put out a little video about Bundy breaking the news about the hire. So, BJ Beretta just subscribed in real time. It was funny. We did the Twitter space a couple days ago, and I mentioned the YouTube account. We had like 3 or 4 people in real time subscribe. Jeff Cantone subscribed. Look at that. We got multiple people subscribing right now. Go over to youtube.com/@snowthegoalie, where you will get notifications. Hit the little bell or whatever. You'll get notifications when we go live. The goal here, and I think, and I, like I mentioned, we're working on some stuff here. I think doing live streams, fielding questions, comments, concerns is good stuff, especially over the summer. So we'll see. Make sure you subscribe over on YouTube. Don't miss when we do a new show. You can be one of the first people to see and to hear everything that's going on. And of course, there were a couple of minutes before the show, started, quote unquote, that the podcast feed people, if you're listening, are going to miss out on unless you go over and you subscribe on YouTube. So, hey, big week, big exciting stuff. Keith Jones, president of Hockey Ops. The team feels like it has a direction. We'll see how it goes. We're going to give the front office carte blanche. Let's see what they can do. Let's see if they can build up the fan base. The statement is one thing, the new era of orange. I like it. I dig it. We'll see, guys. So for Bundy, who you can find on Twitter @ctarian6, for Anthony, who you can find on Twitter @AnsanPhilly, I'm Russ @JoeyOnBroad. Thank you for listening or even watching Snow the Goalie, the only Flyers podcast, and as somebody pointed out in the comments, the only Flyers morning show here on YouTube. Have a great week, and let's go Flyers.